Welcome, everyone, to the Boiling Point podcast and our special coverage of the race for the West Shore School District 2025. And joining me for this episode is candidate for District 2, right?
Actually, I'm Region 3.
Region 3. Well, I'll fix the title when I post this. We're obviously recording this. We are going to have Sandra back again, and we will likely make that a live episode. So look for that if you want to be able to ask her questions. We'll set that up as kind of a Q&A thing with people, with viewers. But let's get back to this one. Sandra, you are running, for District or Region 3 of the West Shore School District, and you are running against Brian Geistwhite.
Correct.
And as we were just talking about off air, you are running against him in both the primary and the general. How is that possible?
Well, here's the thing. In the state of Pennsylvania, for school board and for township supervisor, you can cross-file. What they've tried to establish is it's a non-political, a non-partisan position. However, I filed as a Republican. I did not file as a Democrat because for me personally, I will not have it on the annals of heaven that my name was on a Democratic ticket for anything. Okay. That's my position. Not everybody feels that way. So I will run against him in the primary on May 20th. And we're both on the Republican side. He's on the Democrat side. So if I win the Republican primary, in the general election, he's still on the Democrat side, so I'll still have to face him in the general. It's crazy how that works. It is what it is, but that is the standard in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's a little bit crazy that you can do that. And I think, somebody should look into rewriting that law or the phrasing of that, because I don't think that's right. I think that's a political maneuver more than trying to promote like unity or bipartisanship. To me, it's more of a political move than that.
And this is what they have tried to address with me at the school board level as a resident showing up and speaking. Some of the folks on the other side of the aisle do not like that I have brought into the conversation that the conservative principles, the Republican conservative principles, because they keep saying, oh, it's supposed to be nonpartisan. I'm sorry. None of them on that side of the aisle are ever going to vote for a conservative. I don't care what they say. But they want to keep this air of, oh, we have to stay nonpartisan. Listen, the issues today are so divisive that someone who says they're an American first conservative, that what side of an issue they should be on, whether that's the case or not. But so there you have it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely a lot of that in the West Shore School Board, as we just saw this past Thursday during our live stream. And for anybody who's tuning in, if you haven't tuned in, we do live stream the West Shore School Board meetings. We won't be doing that. We may or may not be doing that this week for a variety of different reasons, but we may or may not do it this week, but we will be continuing our live stream coverage of the school board meeting. So please tune into our channel, because there's a lot of people tuning into the actual stream, which I guess if that's what you want, because we do provide commentary during the school board watch along. Yes. So, if that is not your
good commentary and good.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, I'd like to get more of the West Shore School Board parents tuning in to our live stream watch alongs. And we will continue to do that. And this past Thursday, Sandra, we saw a vote about the budget.
Yeah.
And they voted to raise taxes
again.
A two-thirds raise on the current taxes. Now, before I ask you about your opinion on both the taxes and on the way the school board went about doing it, just because many of them, especially on the conservative side, have said to several parents that they won't vote to raise taxes.
Sure.
And then they just did. There was only one conservative member who voted against it, and I'm totally drawing a blank on her name.
Heidi Thomas.
Thank you. I was remembering Heidi, but I couldn't remember her last name. Heidi Thomas was the only one who voted against it, and therefore Heidi Thomas, even though she hasn't been on the episode yet, I would love to have her on an episode. I'm going to, I would say you should definitely vote for Heidi Thomas.
Yes.
I need to have a conversation with her, and I'd love to have her on the show, but I need to have a conversation with her before I can fully endorse her from the show. as the show. But I do think that being that she's the only conservative that stood up against this is,
Yes.
I think, was an excellent tell. We need more. We need more of that. It was only she was the only nay vote in the whole thing. So let me ask you first, Sandra, about raising the taxes. What is your policy on the budget? Because you guys are in some serious, got a serious hole going on. You guys are in the red. So what is your feelings on the budget, and then about specifically about them hiking the taxes at this recent board meeting?
Well, here's the thing. I have been consistent on this issue. Get a hold of the out of control spending before you even think about going further. Listen, JD, this is what we all do in our personal budget. When you can't afford the things that you want, you switch to affording the things that you need and must have. And then you look at what's left over and then you begin to prioritize anything above that. They're not doing that. So at the school board, or I'm sorry, at the school tax level, they have what's called a mill rate. So the state tells them how much they're allowed to raise if they choose. They have gone 2/3 of that cap of what they're allowed to jack in our taxes. Utilities can be similar as well. The states and the feds tell a utility company just how much they can jack your fees and costs. So they did this last year. They did this, from what I understand, at least the last 13 years in a row, certainly the last 10. Brian Geiswhite said last year in this season, where they're getting ready to pass a budget for the upcoming year, and that sets the mill rate on your taxes. He said the original plan that they had was a 10-year tax hike. We were at 10 years last year. They alluded to the fact last year, you can pull up the footage, don't take my word for it, that this year would not need to be raised because of the amount that they jacked it last time. And they jacked it. If you got your bill and you live in West Shore School District, you know what I'm talking about. And to parse it out, Cumberland County is taxed at a different mill rate than York County. Why that is, I don't quite understand that dynamic. However, I know that that's true. But they jacked it last year. And so this year, it caught a lot of the conservatives off guard because we were led to believe last year that they were jacking it to what they jacked it so that they could get where they needed to be. And then there on out, of course, they were going to. These people have never met a tax hike that they didn't love. Never.
Yeah,
And the out of control spending. So Heidi Thomas was brilliant when they posted, to in order to panic everyone, these things that would need to be cut if they don't raise the
yeah,
tax,
fear
like
mongering. Yeah,
the teachers' aides and the
yeah. The
nurses
meeting
and
was ridiculous.
hygienists and all these. And I had people reach out to me. Oh my gosh, have you seen? They're going to cut our job. And I said to them, look, you guys are the last people they're going to cut. These teachers' hairs would be on fire if they cut the teachers' aides out of the budget. Heidi Thomas says in the meeting yesterday during discussion, she says, have you looked at cutting any administration?
Yeah,
Because she couldn't see one administrative secretary, one clerk. There was nothing. I'm sorry, JD. My
that's all
husband
right.
got home to keep my dogs at bay.
That's all
Uh,
right.
so in fact, that might actually be him coming home. So here they had to admit, oh no, gee, we never looked at administration. They looked at all these other things that they knew. Listen, the
Cutting
average
programs.
person in the school district isn't going to say anything if they say we're cutting a secretary, we're cutting a clerk. The average person's going to go, that's the way of the world. But when they start threatening, in a sense, because that's what it was an intimidation move.
Yeah,
We're going to cut teachers' aides. We're going to cut school nurses. We're going to cut hygienists. These are things that the average person thinks, wow, that's sort of on the necessity side of things. And Heidi Thomas brings this up, and this is where they go with this. They're like, no, gee, we never got to that. And
yeah,
then she pressed a little further and said, I want to look at that. I want you coming in here next month, and I want to know what we're looking at, because with you and I both know this, JD, with AI, they have cut a lot of records keeping, and they've cut down on a lot of administrative things that can now be done with AI.
which I'm
that
not a
you
fan of anyway.
yeah, any company, any big company that you look at, it has found ways. Every doctor's office, look at our doctor's offices, JD. How many administrative jobs they've cut? How many layers of that they've cut? Because they've been able to compensate with computers and things being
Yeah.
done by AI.
My personal opinion on that, though, is that, especially with doctors' offices, that there's a serious lack of communication now between personnel,
Yeah,
the computers, and the
yeah,
personnel of each other.
I
So,
agree.
so I
I
do. I'm not
agree.
a big fan of AI. I am not a big fan of
Me
AI.
either. Me either.
I do
But
understand that it has its place. There are
right,
places for it where it can help. Okay, so I'm
right,
not.
right.
I
I
get that,
agree. I
but
agree.
I
But you
think
can
we need
see
to
where
be
they've
careful.
gotten rid of a whole records room that where they had all our records on paper, and now all of a sudden they're on computer disks, and now or they're on clouds and stuff. But no, no, they never thought to look at their own administration.
Yeah,
To
that was they that was a big thing this past Thursday. They really didn't have their what they were threatening, the programs that they were
yes,
threatening to cut. They did not have their information because, as I believe Heidi even said, that before we cut any school programs or any teachers
yes,
or any security guards, we should
yes,
be looking at administration and where we can cut waste before we even get to any of the other three categories.
yes.
And I couldn't agree more with that statement. I think that that's spot on. That's exactly what needs to be done. And like you said, they're not reining in the spending. It's
Right, right.
completely out of control at the West Shore School District right now.
And
Um,
everybody else is cutting back. Everybody else has cut back. There isn't anywhere that you go that they have. The grocery stores have cut back. You see where they've cut down on the different cereals you can buy, and maybe now it only comes in one size instead of three sizes and stuff.
yeah,
It's everybody except for West Shore School District.
and then you know what? That's a little side, just a little side tangent there. You were talking about like the consumerism, like at grocery stores and stuff like that. Do we really need four different choices for the size of Fruity Pebbles that we're going
Yes,
to buy? Do we really need four different
right, right.
sized boxes to choose from? So I'm just saying, I think some of this cutback is maybe companies realizing, hey, wait, this is a little bit ridiculous. We don't need to offer you know 10 different cereals with
Yes,
the same name, with different variations. Cut it
that's right.
back, you know what I mean?
That's right. And
America
no
is
pun
about
intended,
choice.
but nobody's thinking outside the box with this stuff. They're
Yeah.
not thinking of, we all have figured ways around certain things because of having to be innovative in order to make it work.
Yes, absolutely. We're in the Boiling Point podcast is in the process of that. We have costs associated with our podcast. We do not generate revenue, or at least much revenue, only our storefront. Our storefront, by the way, is bonfire.com/store/the Boiling Point podcast. You can pick yourself up some apparel. Sorry, I'm trying to get in the
Yes.
camera here
A
a little bit.
shameless plug.
My banner gets across is across there a little bit, but yeah, check out our storefront, pick up some we have so many products, and we have a whole bunch of new stuff that we just added. We have pants, we have jackets now, we have yard signs, we have a slew of new products added to our storefront. So please go check out our storefront because that is one of the ways that we do actually generate some cash. Now we're looking
Yes.
for sponsorship this year. I bring all this up because me and the other people who are part of the Boiling Point hierarchy who put in money for our costs because we pay for it out of pocket, we had to make a decision. And this year, we had some costs go up. So if these costs go up again next year, we've decided that we'll have to use different software. We'll have to get something different because the economics aren't there. We can't just keep spending money that we don't have. We have to
Ah,
we have to be
there's a
able to cut
novel
back.
thought.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, even though it was a price hike this year, two-thirds of us decided that we were okay with it this time. But if it goes up again next year, that we are absolutely going to have to find a different way or different programs or whatever these costs are associated and try and bring that down because we can't go up again. So
Right.
that's part of budgeting. That's part of making a budget. That's why I bring that up, because sometimes what you want isn't what you can have.
Exactly.
So you have to make tough decisions. And yeah, some of them decisions are likely going to be hard, and some of them are going to be tough, and some of them are going to be hard to swallow. And there may even be some cuts that need to be made in the places that you don't want, like teacher pay or programs or something, that might be a necessity as well. But first, you got to go to where to cut the fat first. Cut the fat before you start trimming the meat. And that's why that's why I brought all that up, because the West Shore doesn't really seem to want to do that. They seem to just want to raise your taxes. I never hear anything in these meetings about reining in spending. It's only about raising taxes. I never hear anything about reining in spending.
Right. Right. And that therein lies the problem, right? Because with every door that I've knocked on in the district, these people are, first thing you hear out of their mouth, have you seen the price of eggs? The gas costs, making choices between food and medicine, and door after door after door. And then when they see the rate of their taxes and how much it's gone up, and that's, a conversation almost always when you talk about school board issues, that comes into play. And they're getting ready to redo the swimming pool, and they're going to then do the sports complex. Okay. And none of us are against kids learning how to swim. None of us are against Redland having their own uh, football,
No, absolutely
baseball,
not. These
stadium.
listen,
However, who's
go
going to pay for this? It's going to be on the back of the taxpayer. They have
some
not
of it, yeah,
they have not formed committees to go out into the community. If these things are so important to the community, you go out in the community and you raise funds and you bring this to the community. You bring it to the businesses. You go to Giant Foods. You go to Hershey Foods. You go to Amazon. You go to Chewy. You go to these big companies who supposedly care about our communities, and you put them on record as to giving or not giving to the things they say they support. But they are going to pull $5 million from an account that we have that is supposed to be for upgrades. Okay, then they tell us that Allen Middle needs upgrades and it needs expansion because they want to close the New Cumberland Middle School, combine the two schools, cut administrative costs in doing that, and Bob's your uncle. But instead of using that $5 million potentially for seed money for Allen Middle, we're going to use it on a swimming pool at Redland. And even though we all think it's great that children learn to swim, they can't. They're not succeeding at teaching our kids how to read, how to write, how to do mathematics. Our kids don't even know what cursive is anymore, right? Our scores are through the toilet, and they're worried more about teaching them to swim when they can't. And one of the board members said to me, "Well, we have to teach our kids to swim because even if it saves one life." And I said, you know what, the quality of life for these children when they graduate and they've not learned to sufficiently read and write, they will not succeed in life to their capacity to what they could have been.
yeah,
And you're stifling. Maybe they won't marry because they feel they can't support a family. Maybe they won't go on to higher education because they feel so intimidated that because they graduated high school without even knowing how to do basic math. And
yeah,
this is the thing that is lost in that argument. People accuse me of not wanting a pool for our kids, and that's not where I'm coming from. Where I'm
yeah.
coming from, JD, is the same as you and I. Two of our grade schools do not have air conditioning, Fishing Creek and Newberry. And they, at the beginning of the year, they shut down those schools for a week because of the hot weather. Those children, elementary school level, had to do at home learning. Okay. How many parents do you think had to take off work for a week to make that happen?
Yeah,
Right. And we're
yeah.
going to redo a pool. JD, if you had a swimming pool out back of your house and your air conditioner unit went out on you and you wanted to redo your pool, which one are you redoing? You're
Yeah,
doing the air conditioning unit, right?
yeah,
Because that is a necessity in today's age for that. And at elementary level, it's not like your seventh, eighth grader that you can say, okay, mom's going to work, you stay home, you make sure you do your schoolwork on
yeah.
computer, don't fight with your brother, keep the door locked. Parents are taking off a week's worth of work. At the end of the year here, we're going to have that same thing. And I know teachers that wear open toe shoes at school at that time of year, at the beginning of the year and at the end, because it's so hot in these buildings. Now, there is air conditioning in the office and in the teacher's lounge, and that's it. And they
Oh, very
run
nice.
24/7. They run fans and dehumidifiers in every room, even on the weekends. If there's a chance that they can get the degree down one more degree on Monday morning, they leave those things running in every classroom 24/7 in the hot weather.
Because it's the only way to keep it. It's the only way to keep it under control. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you think about the power usage of that as well. So that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Throwing
There's
good money after bad.
Now, from what I understand, some of the natatorium is going to be built with a specific grant that I guess is supposed to be for the natatorium, right?
If we put up the first 5 million, supposedly
Okay,
there's
that's what
another
it is. I
five
missed that. That's
million.
what I missed in when she was explaining it.
Suppose yes, and here's the thing, I'm not against it in and of itself.
Yeah,
But what about the basics? What about, and I think one of our roofs at one of our schools, I remember a couple of months ago, them talking about it leaking. These are things we don't do in normal life. You don't redo the swimming pool when the roof is leaking and when the schools have to be shut down because of how hot it is. It is
yeah,
unbelievable. And one of the things that Dr. Stoltz said about the natatorium is that they have an air conditioning unit to keep that room cool, the swimming pool room, from the humidity building up too high. They put it in the wall unit of air conditioner, where the back of that unit comes out and do another room inside the school, and it makes that room hot. Okay, one room. Here's two entire grade schools where the entire school, except for the teachers' lounge and the office, are god awful hot and aren't habitable at certain times of the year. And their sad story about the natatorium. And here's the more important thing, JD, is I'm out knocking doors. I have not met one homeowner who pays school taxes that thinks that that school or that swimming pool should be done over and above everything else, and in order to jack more taxes. Because even though they'll say, well, we have this $5 million sitting in an account, so we don't have to raise taxes, which is what one of them said to me. But here's the thing, you are going to raise taxes when it's time to do Allen Middle. You are going to raise taxes when it's time to fix that roof. And you're going to say, we have to do it in order to do these upgrades. Well, maybe the upgrade on the swimming pool isn't as necessary. Here's the thing, every school in the district has to be bused to Redland in order to use that pool, except for the students at
yeah,
Redland, okay? Why can't they be bused over to the Y and learn to swim at the Y? It's only a little bit further for most of
yeah,
our schools, right? And maybe not even for some of our schools. The Y might be closer for Allen Middle than Redland, maybe.
yeah,
So some of the arguments don't make sense, and maybe someone who did more background work would say, well, actually, the Y can't handle. Maybe not. But has anybody picked up the phone and looked into this? So maybe if we gave, instead of, and listen, the original price on this swimming pool redo is $20 million. Okay, then supposedly they got it down to 5 to 7 or 5 to 8 million or whatever.
yeah,
And listen, that's fishy in and of itself. If you're able to cut it, even if you got different contractors and you're going to save money, whatever. We all
yeah,
know how these projects are, where you open something up and somebody goes, oh, we also have to do this and we also have to do that. Next thing you know, you're back up to 20 million.
yeah,
What if we gave the Y a $10,000 a year donation to let our kids? You would have to do that for 100 years before you hit this 5, 10, $20 million figure.
yeah. You're absolutely right, and I couldn't agree more with you in terms of the spending. When I said that, when they said about it, and then that's what I heard from some of the parents is, oh, they're
And
using
that's one
grant money,
example.
they're mostly using grant money, mostly using grant money. I'm like, yeah, but you're about to raise taxes.
Yeah.
You got schools in shambles, and you're still approving this when you also need a new football stadium. And I get that there's grants for some of this. Like I get that you're using grants for some of this, which is the only way you likely are going to be able to accomplish any of this anyway is with grants because you don't have any money. So, but I think you guys got to figure out how to cut spending. The West Shore has to figure out how to cut spending. All right, I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to get through everything because I knew the
Yes,
everything that happened Thursday and the
kind of
budget
blew things up.
yeah, I knew it was going to take quite a good section of this episode. So let's get through a couple of these other items, and
Okay.
then, like I said, we'll definitely have you on for another episode so that we can cover the rest of them and continue to provide you a platform so that you can speak out against this. I saw you on what was it, Fox?
No, actually, it was Real American Voice War Room with Steve Bannon and Jack Posobiec.
Oh, okay. It looked like all right. I could have sworn it was a Fox banner on it. Maybe it was somebody. Okay, cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, anyway, yeah, I did see that. That was pretty cool.
Yes, it was.
I got to get your address so I can send you some business cards. That way you can just hand them out to people for me and just name drop them.
Yes, and I'm out. You had given me your pamphlet. I had some.
Yeah, the pamphlets.
I'm out now, though. I'm out now, so
Oh,
I can
okay,
do
great.
more of those as well. Yep.
Excellent. All right, I'll get another round of some stuff made.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about some of the other issues other than the budget. All right, now there's a couple of things that I'm going to pick out here. Okay, now I
Okay.
know a lot of people wanted me to ask about Title IX. Okay, but I'm going to actually hold that. We're going to hold that, Sandra, until the next time you come on, because
Okay.
otherwise that's the only other thing we get to. And but I think we can get through some of this other stuff in the same amount of time. I know Title
Okay.
IX is going to be a 15 or 20-minute conversation
Oh
at the least.
yes.
So let's talk about cyber school, and then we'll transition to some of these other things. Where do you stand on cyber school? What is your position on that?
Listen, I'm 100% for it. I cyber schooled. I have 4 children. 3 of mine, from time to time, were cyber schooled. Would go back for a year, pull out for a year. Cyber school served my children very well. My oldest child was completely public school the whole way through, maintenance free. My 2 middle sons were learning support. And for my one son was at Redland, ninth grade. He was in learning support, and he come home from school and he said, "Mom," he said, "they're giving me fourth and fifth grade English worksheets." He said, "Do they think I'm stupid?" And I called the teacher, and her response to me was, first of all, he's the best kid in my class. Secondly, he's getting A's. He's getting A's. What are you complaining about? So I pulled him out and I put him in Commonwealth Connections Academy, and they tutored him in algebra up to grade level, like within months, within
Yeah,
2 months. Okay.
excellent.
And they would give him some special concessions. They would potentially give him an extra 10 minutes on his test,
Yeah,
or, things like that.
I think
And
time.
in,
I think time tests are ridiculous, in my opinion. I think
yeah,
trying to have a time limit for some of these kids is just ridiculous. Who cares how long it takes them? If they get
yes,
the information, that's what you want from a school. You want them
yes.
to learn. So as long as they get the information, who cares how long it takes them?
And here's the thing, JD. These schools have prided themselves on shutting the parents out. And they used 9/11 in the security. As to it used to be, and I, at one time when my son was in my children were in East Pennsboro, my 3 sons were in the same school, Sporting Hill, and for the Christmas party I put my daughter in a stroller and go in and go from classroom to classroom, and she would get to go in and see the boys at their Christmas party. Good luck getting in now. And they've used 9/11 as a reason to lock these schools down, to lock the parents out of everything. And then they want to be surprised when these parents pull their kids out
Yep.
because their voices are not heard. They are shut out of everything. Their children's voices aren't heard. The 1% of people who maybe identify as trans or this or that, you have to accommodate, according to the school districts, everything where they're concerned. But your little daughter who does not want to change in a bathroom or a locker room or go to the bathroom with boys is made to feel as though she's a bigot
Yep.
if she doesn't want to do that. And they wonder why we're pulling our children out. And that
Yep.
will continue to happen. Now they do, and listen, Mr. and I think it was Mr. Gay the other night was so egregious when he accused parents of, because a particular cyber school, he says, gives $1,000 for
I
something.
did you that was I'm glad you just brought that up, Sandra, because I that is one thing that I wanted
That's
to mention.
egregious.
How about them? Yeah, how about them? Yeah, blatantly
So how
accusing
many
these cyber
how many
schools
parents
of
do you know
bribery
that will
and
sell their child's soul and
and
well-being for a couple
fraud.
of bucks?
And yeah, like I could not believe that he did that. I even was saying to Sandra and Christy and everybody else that was in there with me that I was like, do they realize that these are public meetings?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
this is
Hey, tell
that
me
this is
that's
public.
not a lawsuit. He
Yeah,
hit
that's
into
this
the
is public
school.
information. Do they not realize that they just in a public maybe they don't realize. Maybe some of these board members don't realize, or the
You would have
superintendent
thought
doesn't
our solicitor
realize.
would have leaned over and said to him, because he was 2 seats away, hey, don't do that. That's a liability.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a big one. I could not believe that. I said, "Wow, like you're not just in a meeting, like you're not just having a meeting. This is a publicly recorded meeting. This
And
is this
listen, the average parent, JD, pulls their kid out at peril, and they do it because they
yeah,
fully believe they have to.
I really
There
couldn't
is
believe that.
nobody that I've ever met that brings their kid or pulls their kid out of public school and takes on the responsibility, because even though it's cyber school or charter schools, It puts more responsibility on the parent. Sometimes it's transportation, what have you. I've never met anybody that does that flippantly. And the thing that I also thought was unreal was one of our school board members um, homeschools their children. And they never said that during they are all saying, let's find out why we're losing these parents. Well, I can give them
Oh
five,
my goodness.
right? Not one of them raised their hand for
Sandra, I
this
could not believe
particular.
that either. There were so many things in Thursday's meeting that I could not believe. I could not believe that they openly stated, not, and it wasn't just an insult to the cyber schools, claiming fraud and bribery, claiming that they were guilty of both, which is incredibly liable. Then they also, but by the same token, they also accuse the parents of not having their own kids' best interest because of $1,000 Amazon card, or because
How
of this,
condescending.
or because of this or that. I could not believe
Disgusting.
that. I said, "Are you?" I could not believe
Disgusting.
he had the gall to say that in a public meeting. I was really beside myself when they said that. I said, "Wow, you guys are really in trouble now." I was saying to the other parents, I'm like, you guys could really be screwed now.
You
Like
know,
that's
they
huge.
tipped their hand and they showed their cards. This is what they think of the parents. This is
Yeah,
what they think of the parents. And there may be some parents. Listen, I know because my children have gone to public school, and I can remember when I would bring my daughter to Newberry Elementary and drop her off in person. And I would see some of the kids get off the bus, and you'd see a little girl get off who was still in her PJs. It would be springtime, and she was in snow boots. Her hair wasn't combed, and she just looked disheveled. And I don't judge anybody for that, JD. God only knows the home that she's living in. Maybe a single parent,
yeah.
maybe there's addiction issues, maybe she lives with grandma and grandma's old and feeble and trying to raise, and who knows. So I get it. They do see a lot of things that maybe, but you know what? The Bible says love's always willing to think the best. And that is not what they thought of these parents when they conveyed it and they said it and they snickered and they laughed and they
Yep.
said that how they want to do surveys to figure out who in their right mind needs to figure out why a parent would not want their child entrapped in the public school system. When you
Especially
see the
after.
garbage in our libraries, you see the fact that boys don't even have to identify as a girl to go into the gender neutral bathrooms at our high schools. And God help you if you complain. There was a father that showed up a couple of months ago whose daughter walked all the way down the end of the hallway. You're supposed to be able to use just a girl's room, not the gender neutral. She went all the way down there for that specific, and a boy came in and she told him to get out, and he said no. And when she went to the counselors, they were like, oh, is this really a problem? And then
Yep.
the daughter come home, and the father emailed teachers and social services and all these people at the school. To no avail, he shows up at a school board meeting to confront them. Okay. That's why people pull their kids out, because
Yes.
parents aren't heard, their children aren't protected. A girl does not feel protected with boys in the bathroom.
We now that would be a great pivot point to Title IX, but I don't want to go super long on
No,
the
right.
episodes. We we
Right.
lose
That's
we
a,
lose viewers the
yeah,
longer it is, and I want to make
lot
sure
of
that people
layers
are
to that
tuning into
onion.
this. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So we are going to save that one for the
Okay.
next time we have on.
Yep.
Maybe we can do it again. Maybe we can do it again next week,
Right. But
or the week after.
these issues collectively are why parents are at the end of their
Yeah,
rope. All of them. All
yeah.
of these issues, crunch
And
together.
who would want to take a survey from the school after you get accused of that? If I'm a
Yes.
parent who got accused of that, I'd be like, you know what? Because they were saying
Uh,
that people like to take surveys. And I think for the most part, I think parents would be willing to take surveys from the school district so that the school district understands. But if I heard a comment like that and then they sent me a survey, I'd mail it
yeah.
back to them and be like,
Yeah.
you're the
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
Because like I could not believe that. So yeah, this last Thursday, go check out that episode. And then also check out another shameless plug here,
And
Mariana's watchdog report.
yes.
Because she was all the parents right after that meeting was over. She's like, "Yeah, I'm going to do one tomorrow," and then she texted me 15 minutes later, and she's like, "All the parents want me to do one right like tonight." She's like, "I'm going to do one tonight." Now I think she posted it on her YouTube channel, so it's already up.
Yeah.
But we
It,
are
it,
going to post it on the Boiling Point podcast channel. That'll be up either tonight, the night that we're shooting this, which you're not going to see for until tomorrow, also, which is when we post this. This and her watchdog report are going to get posted in one batch. So if you're
and
watching
that
this and
one
haven't
school
seen that, go watch that
and
after
that
you're
one
done watching
school board
this.
member, JD, never spoke up and said why that school board member homeschools their own children. Never once did that person, instead, that person went on and on about how we need to do a survey.
Yeah.
Here, physician, heal thyself. You tell us why you're homeschooling your children, why you don't trust the
Yeah.
school district where you sit on the board to publicly teach your children. Instead, you choose to do it yourself, which I don't criticize in and of itself. But then you're up there as some paragon of virtue as to wanting to find out why parents don't trust the school district when you are one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you hit it right on the head there with that, with everything in terms of why kids are taking, or parents are taking their kids out.
Yep.
And yeah, this last Thursday meeting was just insane with everything that they said. I could not believe some of these board members were saying that. And as you said, yes, protecting the
Egregious.
children, and yeah, between the budget issues at the school, the fact that your children aren't safe, both your boys and your girls, because God help you if what happens if a girl accuses a boy who's not a didn't
My,
actually,
my.
yeah, and what happens, God forbid, that it actually does happen and a girl gets hurt. There are so many things that you're open to, and they're still dragging their feet with the executive orders,
Yeah.
having to go back to committee now. And this is the last. This is, I think, we're at 37 minutes now, so we're
Okay.
going to this is the last point that I want to make, and then we are definitely going to have you on again as long as you have the time with your
I do.
campaign.
Yeah.
So if not within 2 weeks, we will have Sandra on again. But the other thing that I wanted to talk about, and I just totally lost it. Darn it, what was it? It was the conservative board members not speaking up at all during some of this on Thursday. That was the last point that I wanted to ask you about. Is you guys technically, supposedly, have a 5-4 conservative board? I have yet to see it.
Yeah.
I still have yet to see it myself. But I wanted to ask you about this past Thursday specifically. Kelly Brent, the president, even gave the floor to that side of the table about getting involved in what one of the things that they were talking about, especially about the cyber school issue. They didn't. Nobody talked. Nobody spoke up except Heidi Thomas. Everybody else on the side, Kelly Brent, and Heidi Thomas were really the only ones to really provide any pushback on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the last thing I wanted to ask you about is that specifically. How do you what does that say to you, or how do you feel being that this board who's been elected is there for things that they said they would do and they're not doing them?
And you have to ask yourself why, right?
Yeah.
And here's one of the reasons that I'm running, JD. I don't necessarily think that there's no one issue that I said I'm going to run because of that. I genuinely stepped up because I could not find a candidate to run. So so then it's next man up. Okay, you got
Yep.
to do it. But one of my biggest peeves with this board is when they are getting ready to vote on something and they go discussion and people go,
Yeah.
no, and boom, they vote and it's out the door. Where is your voice? You are up there to be a voice for the children, a voice for the parents, a voice for the taxpayer. Speak up. Where is the pushing back?
Yeah.
And listen, at times the progressive side does it and they go on and they bloviate and they go on and on about whatever, and 5 different ways from Sunday to say, oh, this is so important for this and that, and not one peep, not one peep. And with the cyber schools, here's the thing: make a better product. If there's 2 restaurants in town and Joe's restaurant has all these customers and Mike's restaurant doesn't, Mike doesn't go to the township and say, you make Joe's customers come over and eat at my place
Yeah.
50% of the time. No. In a real world setting, you make a better meal at a
Yeah.
better price and your customers will come.
Yeah.
These schools are going to continue to bleed students as long as they are shutting the parents out, giving poor education, and and taxing us to know. Listen, one of the tax issues that nobody can tell me why we have 2 full-time physical therapists that work out of the ACE building. Why? Why? Nobody can tell me. We have so much bloating in different areas. But up there on the dais, you can't get anyone to say a word. Now Heidi does. Heidi, to her credit,
Yeah.
she does. I think Brenda once or twice recently has pushed back on one or two things. Well, I thought, well, at least. But where's the fight? You
Yeah.
say when you're running, you're going to fight for our kids. You're going to fight for the parents. You're going to fight for the taxpayer. Then do it. Then do it.
I
And
It
and they're
seems like
not.
they don't. Yeah, it seems like they don't like the limelight. Once they get there and they realize that they're in the public view and they have to say these things on public record, it seems like some people get
And
cold
supposedly
feet.
they're not allowed to deliberate in private on these things because of the Sunshine Act, okay?
Yeah,
So normally like in Washington, when you say, well, there's a lot of backroom deals, there's a lot of negotiating behind the scenes, you don't always see that. They put together the bill, they bring it forth to the people, and then they go on the record for how they vote. And there is some deliberation on the floor in the well of the Senate and
yeah,
on the floor of the House. So, okay, we get that. At this level, you're supposedly not allowed to deliberate behind closed doors. Everything has to be done in public. Then deliberate. Then
yeah. Where
deliberate.
is it? Where
Yeah.
is the deliberation? Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. And I think it's great that you're running because I think that the school board needs somebody. Because I think maybe there is maybe one or two other conservatives that maybe just need they're not the first man through the door. They don't like
Yes,
standing point.
yes. That's a very
They
good way
need
to put it.
someone to lead them. So, and I think that's where you will fit right in there. I think the school board. I think you get elected depending on how the rest of the elections shake out. Are there other elections or is it just your seat up?
Well, no, actually, the sad truth is there's 4 seats up.
That's right. That's what I
Kelly
thought.
is running, and Kelly is running against someone who is a complete liberal and will just be, in my opinion, all my opinions are my own, a terrible candidate. We really need Kelly to win her race, and then Chris Cambick and I think Abby Tyranny's seat, and I think they are running unopposed. If Abby is running again, I did not think she was going to run,
No,
but they.
it was the woman who spoke at the meeting is running in her place, I think.
Uh,
Um, I I
oh
can't
no,
remember her name.
I thought she's running against Kelly. I know who you mean
Yeah,
Terry
yeah. Then I no, I mean
Terry Mickles. Terry Mickles.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
running
The
against
conversation
Kelly.
we were having, I thought they said that I
Oh,
could be
you
wrong.
might be right. You
Yeah,
might be right.
I could be wrong, but yeah, I thought she's running for Abigail Tierney's seat, and she is running unopposed. But
Yeah,
Abigail Tierney's
yeah,
not running again, and
right. Right. And so
so
we really need Kelly to win her race. We really need me to win mine. If Kelly wins hers and I win mine, we will be up a vote, okay? Because Cambix is a wash, whether he's on now. If Abby Tyranny's got someone running unopposed, it's going to be a liberal vote, however
yeah,
you want to frame it, liberal, woke, progressive, however you want to classify it. I will take the hit for that. But me
you don't have to.
replacing Brian Geiswhite will be huge because he
Yes, it will.
votes with the liberals almost 100% of the time.
Yeah,
Every tax hike.
he's
Every
not a
tax.
Republican. Yeah, he's not a Republican all at all. Yeah, yeah, he's not a Republican at all. And I think that you're much needed on that board for sure,
I'm not
especially
right
with
about
everything that's going
everything.
on.
I'm not right. I'm sure, and I do say when I do speak many times, tell me something I don't understand about this. When I come out against something or for something,
Yeah, I'm the
and I'm
same way.
trying to tell me something I don't understand.
Yeah.
Bring out the conversation, convince me,
How yeah,
debate
yeah,
me,
exactly.
debate me.
Exactly. See,
But
that's
one
it.
thing you will know about me, JD, is I will fight and die for what I believe. And that's the difference.
And also, the reason that you can't get explained these things though is that because they can't be explained. That's also the problem.
Yes,
That's
it never
also their
makes
problem.
sense.
Yeah,
It
because
never
it
makes
can't
sense.
make sense. Yeah, it can't make sense. So, and I don't think you have to. I don't think you're the villain or anything, Sandra. I'm sure that the Boiling Point podcast will be painted as the villain.
Yes.
As Thursday's meeting saw, it was a lineup it was a who's who of our favorite fans
Yeah.
that spoke at that
Sure.
meeting. And I love that they're. The only thing I don't like is that they're all smart enough to not actually name drop my show. I wish they were dumb enough to
Yes,
name
yes,
drop my
because more
show
people
too.
will tune in and they don't want that. They don't want your side of the argument heard. They don't want your voice heard.
Yeah,
So
but I
they would rather stifle you instead of debating you.
yeah,
Instead of coming on here themselves and trying
exactly.
to tell you why they think you're wrong and then give you the opportunity to push back and prove them wrong. They won't
Yeah.
do it.
No, they won't do it. But they'll continue to tune in. And I cannot thank you enough for tuning in and being some of our most loyal fans, especially when it comes to the West Shore School District. Because, see, that's the one thing that you can't do. You can't follow what we say without giving us the view to see it. So
Yeah.
you want to keep knowing what we say? Keep on giving me the view. I'll take it.
Yes.
You don't have to like me.
Yeah.
Like me, hate me. If you watch me, that's all that matters.
Yes.
So yeah, I think the Boiling Point podcast is quickly becoming the villain in their story, or as well, or at least one of the big bad wolves, which is completely fine. I am so looking forward to the day that we
Wear
show up.
that as a badge of honor, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I cannot wait until the day we show up. Until the Boiling Point podcast shows up at a meeting, because it's going to
Yes.
happen sooner or later. Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to happen sooner or later. So when I'm there and I got a cameraman and there's a whole bunch of parents wearing the Boiling Point podcast sitting at the school board meeting, then both the local media and the school board will see what kind of influence we're actually having here. So, which is the only reason we're in this fight, because we were brought in by the parents. The parents called us in and said, "Hey,
Yes.
we need help," and we're here now. That's it.
Yes. And I appreciate Mariana's partnership with you because she's a vital voice and she's fearless and she's
Yeah,
well informed. Here's the thing: the reason they don't like her is she's well informed. She comes in with her facts, and facts are a tough thing. Facts and math are a tough thing.
yep,
2 + 2 really does equal 4, and
yes,
you
it
can say
does.
it equals 5, or you can say it equals 3, all you want. But the
Yep,
facts are the facts, and she comes in armed with the facts and Christy comes in armed with the facts. And that's very intimidating for people who always like to move the goalpost.
yep,
They don't like fixed facts. They like to be able to, according to the way the wind's blowing, move the
yep.
goalpost.
Yep. And that's why she fits in real good with the Boiling
Yeah.
Point podcast. It was, because that's exactly
Yeah.
what we try and do. We try and bring you the facts. You might not like all of them. I don't like
Yes.
all of them,
Yes. And
but
we're not always going to agree on everything, JB,
exactly.
but
Yeah.
that's okay
Yeah.
because I know your sincerity. I know you will fight for what you believe in. You know my sincerity. We may not always be on the same side of the football on every single issue.
Yeah.
99% of the time we are,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of times where at the township level, or not a lot of times, but a few times where Dave Kirkpatrick is running for township supervisor. I endorse him 100%, where he voted a way I didn't want him to. But I knew
Yeah.
why he did because he
Yeah.
believed. And after the fact, I thought, Dave, you may be right, and we're going to see because we're ended up being sued, like he said we were going to be.
Yep.
And so he may be right that it's going to cost the township, and we're going to lose in court. It looks like we are going to lose in court, and he's right. I wasn't happy at the time, but I respected him
Yeah.
for his vote because he doesn't vote for selfish reasons or
Yeah.
self-serving reasons.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's why we want Sandra Gonzales. So if you live in District 3,
Region
which I'll
3.
make sure Region 3, I'm going to change the title of that before I post this episode. And if you haven't checked out Mariana's Watchdog Report, go check that out as well.
Mhm.
Marcus Frederiksen is going to play us out. Check out his channel, reverbnation.com/Marcus Frederiksen. Share out your favorite song. And again, visit the storefront, bonfire.com/store/the Boiling Point podcast. Pick yourself up some apparel, a yard sign, pair of pants, or a jacket. We have so many different products now. So go and pick something up. Help us continue to grow. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. I can't stress that enough. People watch our shows. Just hit the like button. Just hit it. That's all you have to do is just hit the like button. And if you share it out, that would also be very great. If you want to leave a comment, all three of those things help us distribute the videos and get more circulation. If you like it, then hit the like button. That's the absolute least you can do to help us, is hit that like button. So please hit it, and hit that subscribe button. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Rumble. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe button, and help us continue to grow, because we can't do it without the viewers. We're not going to grow into anything. We're not going to reach people without the viewers, without followers. So hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, hit that share button, and hit that reaction button, and help us with our circulation. And Sandra Gonzales, we will definitely have you back on within 2 weeks so that we can cover the Title IX issue and that, because I kind of figured, I'm like, this is never going to be one episode. We're going to have to do 2
Yeah.
episodes
Yeah. Too
to
much
cover
more.
everything, especially with what after happened Thursday. That's
Oh,
when I knew. It was after Thursday that I knew it was going to have to be 2 episodes. So yeah, we will have her on again to discuss the rest of my notes and the Title IX issues. So look for that soon, and go check out Mariana. Until next time, for Sandra Gonzales, I am your host, JD, and that's the end.